Ritukul Shrestha to please felicitate Debashish Mohanty. Now I would like to call upon stage Dr. Neel Sarovar Bhavesh, Vice President Indraprastha Vigyan Bharati, to offer floral welcome to Professor Ashwini Agarwal. Please put your hands together for the professors. Now I would like to call Professor Prashant Mishra to offer floral welcome to Professor A.C. Pandey, President Indraprastha Vigyan Bharati. Clapping should stop now. We are truly honored by your presence, professors. So without a further ado, we will officially begin today's celebration. I would like to invite on stage Professor A.C. Pandey, President of Indraprastha Vigyan Bharati and the Director, to kindly enlighten us with his thoughts. Put your hands together for the
dignitaries of the dais, Professor M. Jagdesh Kumar, Professor Debashish Mohanty, Professor Ashwini Agarwal. Of the dais, amongst the organizers, Rituji and the office bearers of Indraprastha Vigyan Bharati, Dr. Neel Sarovar, Professor Manish, Professor Madhav Govindji, and all the distinguished participants on this August day. We celebrate 11th May. On the day in 1998, we had a series of tests in Pokhran, Rajasthan. Despite the fact that NPT and followed by CTBT, we were not supposed to enter into nuclear dimensions. As we all know that nuclear energy being the cleanest energy, carbon-free energy, but the stigma attached to it due to its destructive nature, the process was made a kind of compulsion on the governments to not to enter into this era. When we talk about the technological advancements, this day is celebrated for the contributions made by scientists and engineers through which the conditions of poor people could be ameliorated just because of the advancement in science and technology. So when you pursue science and technology, there is a lot of responsibility that is built in, and we have just shown the restraint in using these options when we had a very small and also brief interaction with our neighboring country, followed by an unfortunate incident in which the young married women, they were widowed despite the fact that they pleaded to get shot along with their spouses. So this was heart-wrenching, and also every citizen of the country felt as if it has happened with them. And in no time, the outfits were destroyed with a very precise surgical strike and without any injury to a civilian. So that is the kind of advancements we have made, and we are proud of our army personnel who, against all odds, they showed their valor. They entered into the territory and they completed the task which was assigned to them. So this is the kind of attainment we had, and it's only possible when people like you who are sitting in this hall, they also cherish the moment, and also they take the responsibility to behave sensibly in coming years by furthering the advancements in technology in coming days. I will not take much of time because we have two illustrious speakers this evening, Professor Jagdesh Kumar and Professor Debashish Mohanty, on behalf of Vigyan Bharati, Indraprastha Vigyan Bharati, and also on behalf of, I will take this opportunity also from the side of Ritu ji to welcome you all for this important gathering. We have Praveen Ramdas ji, he is also with us. He has just joined, and together we can make our nation stronger, and we can demonstrate that nothing can stop us. If anybody tries to cater or take advantage of our, जिसको हम कहते हैं सहनशीलता की उस पराकाष्ठा तक, जब हम कोई ऑफेंस अपनी तरफ से नहीं करते, लेकिन यदि हमारी अस्मिता पर, हमारे खुद की पहचान पर यदि कोई आक्रमण करता है, तो उसको उसी की भाषा में जवाब देने के लिए हम सभी सक्षम हैं, और ये संभव तब हो सका है जब आप जैसे लोग, मेधावी वैज्ञानिक, इंजीनियर्स दिन रात नए एडवांसमेंट्स की तरफ अपना जीवन अर्पित कर चुके हो। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, और पुनः आप सभी का आभार कि आपने इस अवसर पर हम सभी के बीच इस उत्सव को मनाने के लिए आप उपस्थित हुए। नमस्ते।
Thank you, sir. Before we move to the next eminent speaker, I would like to welcome another eminent dignitary, Shri Praveen Ramdas ji, the National Joint Organizing Secretary of Vigyan Bharati. Next, I would like to invite Professor Ashwini Agarwal ji, Dean of Research and Development at Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, to share his thoughts. Please put your hand together for sir.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon everyone. This is indeed a very important occasion, being a National Technology Day, which is usually celebrated on 11th of May, and today, 11th being a holiday, it is being celebrated today on 13th, and it's a pleasure to host such dignitaries among ourselves at IT Delhi. Professor Jagdesh Kumar is a professor of this institute, was a professor of institute, and we had interaction at that time, and now you all know he has been the JNU Vice Chancellor and then Chairman UGC. So he has really made big contributions in the field of technology and its management. So we really welcome him, and it's our pleasure that he's here to talk about technology and the policies. Professor Debashish Mohanty, again, I'm a director of Immunology, Institute of Immunology, is again a figure which is well known in this area, and DBEB has rightly collaborated to host this event. He being one of the speakers here, the area very well fits the expertise whichever the DBE department has. So this is an occasion where, as technologists, we all feel very proud um, that, and we try to celebrate whatever we have accomplished, and we try to look forward to what all we can accomplish. So obviously, sky is the limit for science and technology to grow, and things and challenges are something which keeps coming every day, and we have to be ready for those challenges, whether they are on the social front, international front, or national front, and we have to be ready. It is also important that the whole world remains as a family and we fight less. But yes, at times things do go bad and we have to resort to such kind of actions. But I hope in my real heart that technology should really bridge the gap which the humanity sometimes create. And we should all work together. Now at IT Delhi, we have many international programs, you all know, which is International Institutional Research Collaborative Programs. We call them International Research Partnerships with various universities. Almost 17 such programs are going on with IT Delhi and 17 other universities throughout the world, whether it's UK or Australia or Taiwan, I mean, you name it. There are many, many countries which are involved. And this is to bring people together. This is to make sure that we together create a better environment for tomorrow, for our children, for our next generation. And I think that is what the technology is all about, for uplifting the society, for solving the problems. And at IT Delhi, I think we all do that in some or the other way. Being a technology institute, it's our duty. And I think when I say as a Dean R&D, that it is my duty to support all and every researcher of our institute in whichever way, in whatever way we can, so that you do your best in this area. So thank you very much for inviting me and sharing my thought, and I welcome our distinguished guests today, and we hope to hear their words. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Agarwal, for the highlights, the incredible innovation emerging from IIT Delhi and beyond. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our next keynote speaker, a leader in computational biology and immunology. I would kindly request Debashish Mohanty, Director, National Institute of Immunology, to deliver his keynote address. Please put your hands together for Professor.
Professor Jagdish Kumar, Professor Agarwal, Professor Pandey, and Professor Dr. Praveen Ramdas ji, and all the office bearer of Vigyan Bharati. It's not coming there. So it's indeed an honor to be in this occasion here, and as Professor Pandey said, and this is not only this year's Technology Day has something special because this comes just after the insecurity situation we had, the power of a strong leadership, bold decision, and apart from that, strong indigenous technology is quite important, and this became obvious to almost everybody in the country. Like I tell everybody in my talks that people knew about immunology only after COVID, when we saw that yes, our country could make our own vaccine, we could not only protect ourselves, we could supply vaccine to the other countries. So this day is obviously a important day, and this year's theme is also very special. Like this is yantra, and Yugantar, what it is telling you, in the interest of time, I'll skip this. It is telling it is not only just a machine, it is an integrated picture of the machine as well as this is also Yugantar means a epochal sieve, or it is a transition. It's a huge transition. I think in terms of technology, we are all going through transitions. And coming to biotechnology, of course, the importance of biotechnology has been obvious over years, and India is one of the countries. We started Department of Biotechnology in the 80s, and National Institute of Immunology, where I come from, was one of the institutes which was set up even before the Department of Biotechnology. But there has been, and we have been going through, of course, setting up all these facilities, institutes and department of this. But what is realized over years, that we as scientists should not just remain in our ivory towers and think that okay, we are doing the biggest discovery in the world or things like that. And we have to think in terms of practical applications of the technology. So so practical applications of the technology. So now the transformative change which I was talking through is, if you think of why biology has been practiced traditionally in certain way, but if you go to 50s, the discovery of double helix changed the biology completely. And don't bother, so I'll use the slides and talk this thing, don't worry about, this is not that important. And because a molecular picture came to biology, and this was possible just because we embraced the physical sciences techniques like X-ray crystallography or NMR, other types of this. And we are also going through a second transformation now, that is the applications of AI/ML. Like all our life in every discipline, it is changing. It is also going to change biotechnology much more. And over years, Department of Biotechnology had set up something like 15 different institutes, but we were all working in isolation. So during the last 2-3 years, what government has wanted to set up is Biotechnology Research Innovation Council. So that means all the 15 institutes of the Department of Biotechnology should work together to address bigger problems with the country, so that the impact, the investment is meaningful, and we can show how this can be used for the benefit of the common man. And in this context, one of the unique program which government has started, which Honorable Minister referred, what we call is I3C PhD program. So this is a PhD program where a student doesn't work with just one institute, one supervisor. He will work on a network project. The project is trying to address a bigger goal, and he is able to interact with many different institutes and a group. And these are the type of collaboration we require to really develop technology. If you think of ISRO, if you think of BARC, these are not individual lab efforts, these are team efforts, and that is why it has been realized. And in that context, the role of Indraprastha Vigyan Bharati is very important. With Delhi, if you see, the largest concentration of the technological institute is together, we should think of how we can, and this is the right forum to meet and discuss how we can come together. So coming to technology, I'll just give you, think of like in biotechnology, we do many things, but if you think of something which can be used for common man, like one of the DBT institute in STEM, they demonstrated for the first time the gene therapy. In the country, we could do our own gene therapy. You must have heard of IIT Bombay did ImmunoAct, which is a company, which is started up by IIT professor. He's a young professor, he's probably just associate professor now. He could show that we could develop gene therapy in our country, a treatment which is very expensive in terms of if we import the technology, we would have paid crores of rupees, and in less than in couple of 20 to 25 lakh, the gene therapy for cancer immunotherapy can be given to the people. So there are many such examples of technological development in the country. There are some things, so people who are working on new biomaterial, somebody has developed, another institute has developed a Kisan Kavach, which is different. has developed something called Kisan Kavach, which is a biomaterial, like somebody who is spraying pesticides, he has to protect himself. So these are the type of technology. So there are things like, in fact, NIPG or National Institute of Plant Genome Research have to bring the half-life of the fruits do not rot faster, and there are things like the speed breeding facility, like that if you do a traditional breeding, it takes couple of years. But now under a artificial situation, don't bother, it's okay. You can do a speed breeding. So these are the examples of technology. Even in my own institute, some of the experiments which Bharat Biotech did for Covaxin, the IncoVat, some of the experiments was done using the immunoassay platform which was at NII. So these are the things. So now these are not very difficult science, but we need to think of how to use our expertise. Like I can give you an example of TB, say, genome sequencing or something. What is the use of sequencing the bacteria? To detect, like if it's a drug resistance TB, if you do a DST, it takes about 2 months to get the result against all the antibiotic. But if you can sequence in the clinic and analyze the genomic signatures, from the genomic signature you can detect drug resistance. This can be done in couple of days, and this makes a big difference for the patient. Like the treatment which you are going to wait for a couple of weeks, same way our human 10,000 genome sequence is coming. Like Ritu would know better, when you analyze the cancer genome data, our reference genome is something which is coming from it is not Indian genome. So now we have our 10,000 genome covering the entire country. So now things are going to be very different. So these are the few things. But now when we want to convert science into technology, we need the role of other organization, and Department of Biotechnology has BIRAC, Biotechnology Industry Assistance Council, and through this they have been, over years, they have been supporting many different technologies. If any of you might be a MSc student, PhD students, if you have some idea, you want to convert into a technology or a startup, like even IITs, I should not be telling about startup in IITs, so engineers will know it immediately, but through BIRAC, even a science student who comes from a university will get to do this. And over years, like we have like 75 incubation centers, and 15 lakh plus students and entrepreneurs are engaged. There are close to 5,000 startups, and things have changed very dramatically over the years. And these are, so now there are many areas. Now we are talking of bioeconomy. So what is bioeconomy? What is about is, when we talk of economy, it comes to manufacturing and all. And manufacturing and all, we always relate to some industry or making a car or any other type of device or something. We don't think of biology. But now we can think of biology is a part of your economy. Using biology, one of the best example is biofuel. Government is talking of ethanol blending, and if you want to produce large quantity of ethanol to be blended with petrol, you cannot just produce it from this. You need enzymes, you need efficient enzymes which will do that. So these are the areas the biotechnology can help, and so this is where the lot of expertise and all is required. And these startups over last 8 to 10 years, what has happened is, these startups are not only coming by central funded, even the state governments, like there are many states like Maharashtra, Karnataka, which are fairly advanced, but what you would notice is, even a state like Odisha, which I come from, you always do not associate it with latest development, but there is a very significant number of startups. I was very pleased to see in the BIRAC's report that Odisha still figures among the top few states. So this has all been possible due to government's efforts and people like you coming forward to make use of that. And all these technologies where the things are coming in diagnostics, the example I gave for TB diagnostics, like medical devices, and of course therapeutics. Therapeutics is little more complicated, of course, but these are the areas, and of course vaccine, all the things which you know. Keeping all this in mind, the government has come up with the biomanufacturing is a theme of the government, Honorable Prime Minister announced the Bio E3 policy of the biotechnology for economy, environment and employment. So this is something where you can, it is not only covers the health science or technology for precision therapeutics or precision medicine, even in the, to derive, like if most of the time your drugs are some chemical substance, they are produced by using the chemical processes or things like that. But now if you bacteria, like all your antibiotics have been discovered from the microbiologist, from the soil or from some bacteria. So now you can use synthetic biology, biochemical engineering techniques to produce drug or high value chemicals. There are many chemicals which are industry, to food industry, fragrance, flavor industry. You can produce them using bacteria. So for this, the scientific knowledge is already there. You just need that innovative steps to use it. And of course, biofuel is one thing, carbon capture. So this is where the bioeconomy, biology is integrating all these things, and that is where we have a big role to play. But to make use of effectively the second part which I said, AI is something which is very important because you have more data, you have more knowledge to integrate it naturally. And for this year, especially, so bio AI hubs is something important part of the Bio E3 policy, and that is where our like people, some of you come from physical sciences, some of you have come from biosciences. We have an opportunity to work together. The way I said, our latest earlier development which happened in the 50s, where the physical science and biological science came together to take biology to a next level. So this is the now the next evolution which is going to happen, and this is where we need to this. And this year is something very special. Of course, there are 2 Nobel Prizes which has gone for AI, but I would try to show you the biology link. So like especially neural network is a biology inspired computing. So these models were developed by thinking how our human brain works. And of course, the physics Nobel Prize went for the people who developed the basics of neural network, but the chemistry Nobel Prize went for application of this technique to solve one of the challenging problems which was done in the protein folding. So here I think without going into a lot of details, those of you who know machine learning, like how to generate feature vectors and all these things is an important part of this thing. And those of you who have followed the AlphaFold, you will think this goes back, the way we describe a protein structure goes back to a Indian work, the work of G.N. Ramachandran, who did in 60s, much before the crystal structures of proteins came, how to describe the conformation of a protein, phi and all. So we really have an Indian connection to this. And of course, this is not the only Nobel Prize which went, and there is another Nobel Prize in 2013 went for in chemistry, went for the people who took G.N. Ramachandran's work forward. And many people felt if Martin Karplus, Michael Levitt and all could get, G.N. Ramachandran he should have got a Nobel Prize during this lifetime. So this is area where even those days our country had much less technology. There was not even calculators like the computers. They were working with programmable calculators or models which are made up of metal or plastic by measuring, putting it on a graph paper, by measuring in the plumb line the coordinates. They were the ones who G.N. Ramachandran did that work like this. And now, of course, there is one more Indian connection you can see. The transformers is the machine learning techniques which change the world, like your ChatGPT and including protein folding. But if you see the most highly cited paper, Professor Jagdish Kumar would know it much better than me. This is all is behind the paper. Attention is all you need. And the first author, if you see, Vaswani is probably either a student of this IIT or one of the IITs. So these are the areas we have a strong Indian connection. And now the message I want to give is for the younger students. So, and the way this is, we could make use of this, and biology of course is there is a huge amount of application of LLMs and all in biology. This is a application of clinical AI by Google, so it is able to give answers as good as a clinician will give. I'll skip, and there are other areas where antibody design, like if Biocon has a monoclonal antibody against cancer which is working very efficiently. If you want to make it a more potent antibody, increase its affinity, opportunity, you can use large language model and machine learning, and this can all happen if you work together. You can, this is where the language model AI is being used in biology. So with this, and now you are talking of agentic AI, and this is for the purpose of the students. It is a demonstration of agentic AI, so this is not a real lab. So your supervisor is agent, the student is agent, like a computer bioinformatician, a immunologist. This was demonstrated. Can they do an experiment and design better antibodies that we have than SARS-CoV-2? And believe me, this has been tested in experiment, and this was possible through agentic AI. So that tells you the future of all these things, and digital twins, in the interest of time I'll skip. So what we have is, we have a huge potential in biotechnology, physical science to come together, but the challenge is to how to train students in colleges, universities, provide them access to the technology, because the way it has happened is all these resources or high-end equipment we need is all concentrated in few places, like privileged institutes like ours or IITs or ISRs, but we have a large number of students in universities, and especially with NEP coming, where in the 4th year the students have to do some practical experiment and research. We need to think of how to democratize this distribution of resource, and this is where an organization like Vigyan Bharati has a lot of role to play. We should come forward and this one. So I would stop here.
Thank you, sir, for the fascinating address that connects the power of technology with the promise of health, science, and society. Now, the moment we all were waiting for, I feel truly honored to invite our chief guest, Professor M. Jagdish Kumar, former chairman of the University Grand Commission, a visionary academic leader, a professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering at IIT Delhi. So please welcome sir to deliver the address.
Yes. I'm really excited to see so many students here in this audience. And what I'm going to say is directed at you. This last Saturday, I happened to meet about 60 young people who are working in policy making and international relations. They came from about 20 countries from across the globe. So during my presentation, I asked them a question. Can you tell me what kind of future you want to have as an individual, as a person? Can I ask the same question to you? What kind of future you would like to have? Can you just think for a few seconds as an individual? Next 10 years, next 20 years. And you don't have to disclose that to me. Assume that I have some AI app and I can read your brain waves and identify all the keywords from your thought process, and then I will tell that in one sentence. And let me find out if any one of you disagree with that. So I know what you thought, what kind of future you wanted to have. A future which is sustainable, peaceful, healthy, and secure. This is what every human being wants. Don't you agree with me? This is the future that all of us want to have. But the challenge is how to realize this future that all of us want, which is sustainable, peaceful, healthy, and secure. Why is it so difficult to achieve such a future? it is because of a complex interaction among few things. For example, um, the growing population and the increasing human needs is one. Two, the mega structures that we are building, the urban cities that we are building, which consume a lot of power, sewage, transport, air pollution, and so on. And three, the societal and cultural values. And more importantly, the fourth one is the earth system limitations. These are the four things. There is a complex interaction among these, which is making our task of creating a future that all of us want. Let me first take the last one, the earth system limitations. Today, the CO2 presence in our air, in our weather. We can only afford to have something like 100 ppm in the atmosphere, but then we have crossed much beyond that. We can only afford to lose biodiversity 10 species per million per year. We are losing hundreds of species. The amount of nitrogen that we are extracting from the atmosphere for human use, we can only extract about 35 million tons per year. But we are already extracting more than 150 million tons of nitrogen from the atmosphere for human usage. So somebody asked me when I mentioned this in one of the lectures, what happens if we use more nitrogen? What is its impact? Is there? It's abundant. What happens if we use a lot of nitrogen? Can any one of you tell me? The byproduct of using nitrogen is nitrate and ammonia. And then that will flow into our soil, into our water bodies. And if there is a huge accumulation of this ammonia and nitrate in these water bodies, algae will grow and it will absorb all the oxygen and create miles and miles of dead zones in the water bodies. No aqua life can exist there. And it will also create all kinds of other problems. So we are crossing the limits that Earth can bear. We are extracting so much from Earth. Now look at the human needs. All of us, we want clean energy, clean water, nutritious food, and then different kinds of materials. We want to build this, we need 10 different kinds of materials. Now, from where water will come? India has only how much fresh water supply compared to the global supply? Only 4% of the global fresh water supply is available in India. 80% of that is used for agriculture. And more than 90% of the water used by humans for agriculture and other, for bathing and other things, it comes back into atmosphere as wastewater. So this is a worrisome for us as a country. And what about energy? The energy consumption is growing and growing. You know, if you turn the clock back 500 years ago, if you look at the people who lived 500 years ago, they were using very little energy. And most of this energy came through natural means, wind, water, animals, and so on. But today we use thousands of more, times more energy. Are we any more happier than those people in those times? It's very, difficult question to answer. And our energy requirements are increasing. In the coming years, our energy consumption requirements will increase by 40%. And the energy fuels, liquids, petroleum, diesel, and the solid fuels such as coal. Our dependence on coal is going to be there for next 150 years. Then what will happen if we consume so much of energy? What will happen to the atmosphere and the environment? We all hear about climate change and other issues. Take food. Today, in our country, the predominant crops are only three. What are they? Rice, wheat, and sugarcane. And all three of them consume a lot of water. So how can we have food security in our country? If one famine comes, if all three crops go, then we will have a problem. Earlier we had so many varieties of rice, so many pest resistant crops. We have wiped out all that, and we are heavily dependent on only three crops. Now look at, what is the societal goal? As a society, what do we want? We want our human potential to be enhanced, so that with enhanced human potential, we can come up with the new sustainable technologies, build better economic systems, and improve the quality of human life. But today what is happening? Look at the mental and physical well-being of large populations across the globe. Obesity is a major problem. Our dependence on ultra-processed food is increasing. We are too much stressed. We sleep less. These are all things that are becoming part of our lives. So ultimately, therefore, it will affect the way we interact with each other. We are becoming lonelier and lonelier, in spite of the fact that we have the best technologies today. And look at the fertility rates and the population growth. It is uneven. In certain regions of the globe, the populations are growing. In certain regions, even in the most advanced societies like Korea, where the population growth is only 0.7. So it's well below the replacement rate. Few months ago, I was with a group of PhD students in Calcutta. Some, 30, 40 students were there. So I asked them, after your PhD, what do you want to do? So somebody said, I want to do postdoctoral research. Somebody said, I want to join in teaching. Somebody wanted to go to industry. Then I asked, I said, how come none of you said, I will get married and produce 2-3 kids? That is also an important aspect of our life. The next generation has to be created. We are postponing our marriages. The children are born at a very later age. I was in Korea, in Seoul, moving around in the city. In the market, I found young parents carrying their small kid moving around, but when you look at them, they are in 40s. And it's not good for the health of the generations of humans who will be taking birth to take the humanity forward. So, my dear young friends, therefore, if you want to create a future that we want, all of us want, we need to find solutions to some of the problems that I have mentioned. So how can you find these solutions? For that, there has to be a convergence between knowledge, technology, and values. So now today we are talking about Technology Day, National Technology Day. Technology, as you know, is the application of scientific knowledge for some practical usages. And how do you develop technology? You need to be innovative, and you need to use the knowledge that is created. And how do you create knowledge? By pursuing science. Of course, there is another path. You can also pursue spirituality, because our ultimate goal as human beings is to enhance our perception of reality. In science, we do that. We pursue science only to improve our perception of reality. And in science, what do? We can go outward into the space, millions of light years, and examine the physical structure of the universe. Or you can go inward into the atom, go to the sub-particle level, and understand how material is created. And in science, in the pursuit of science, you use established principles, methods, and tools to find out the structure and content of this physical world. But when you follow the spiritual path, there also our search is to find what is real. But there, unlike in the case of science, where we are mapping the nature, in spirituality, we focus on that person who is trying to map the reality, who is trying to map consciousness, our existence, the meaning of existence. That is what we pursue in spirituality, and these two also intersect at some point or the other, as written by famous scientists such as Schrödinger. So now, we often think that since it is a technology day, let us look at what we do in science. In science, we often believe, and as students you are often told by your teachers, that this beautiful world can be described rationally using logical steps. That is what we believe in science. Now let me tell you a very small story, and I want to know your reaction to this. Imagine in your mind that there is a senior physics professor working in his office, and a young PhD student walks in to his office and puts a question to this professor. The student asks him, please tell me 3 questions, problems in physics that are not yet solved. This professor looks at this fellow and says, if you ever attended my lectures regularly, you would have known. I was telling this in almost every lecture, but anyway, let me tell you. The first question, all of you have background in physics, so I can tell you these are the 3 questions the professor put to the student. These are unsolved. How do we eliminate the contradiction between Maxwell's equations and the fact that the speed of light is constant? How can we eliminate the contradiction between the fact that light is emitted and absorbed in packets of energy, and with our understanding of the black body radiation, where we assume that energy flows continuously? So there is a contradiction. So how can we explain gravity as a deformation in time and space? So this young fellow like you, he immediately wrote down these questions, went back to his lab and started working. And he worked for years and years. By the time he reached 40, he found answers to all the 3 questions. And finally he got a Nobel Prize. Who is that person? Who got that Nobel Prize for solving these 3 questions? Albert Einstein. It's a wonderful story, is it not? But this story never happened. If you believe that it happened, I have sufficiently fooled you. Because in science, if you want to come up with creative work, you don't come with a problem and then try to solve it. That is what our conventional methods tell us. There is a problem and you solve it, And then scientists are generally seen as solution providers, problem solvers. But however, what happened exactly in reality was Einstein was bothered about a particular paradox. And the paradox is, if there is a beam of light, and if I travel parallel to the beam of light at speed of light, and I look at the beam of light, how does it look like? It looks like a stationary oscillating wave. But Maxwell's equations tell us that light is never stationary, it's always moving. So Einstein thought that there must be something wrong with the Maxwell's equations. So he spent few years re-deriving the Maxwell's equations. And he was so much frustrated, he couldn't solve it. And one day he went to his friend's home for dinner, and he explained his failure to his friend. And while coming home, he put aside all the mathematical equations, all the constraints within which he was working, and he let his mind wander. And suddenly, a question popped up in his mind. He said, could it be that there is something wrong with our own understanding of time? Maybe Maxwell's equations are right, but our own understanding of the time could be wrong. This question popped up in his mind. And then now you know the history, that time can be compressed. Our understanding of time has completely changed. This kind of getting ideas through questioning is called night science. And if I have a problem and I go to the lab and do experiments, use the known principles and tools and find a solution, that is called day science. Day science doesn't mean that you work from 9 to 5. Night science doesn't mean that you work from 10 p.m. At 3 p.m. you go to the internal, you will find students. No, I'm not saying that. It's nothing to do with the day and time. What I mean is that if you want to come up with creative ideas, you must let your mind wander outside the constraints that you are taught as a student. That is how creative ideas come. And when you have creative ideas, it can change the way we are living. It can change, it can bring revolutionary changes. So my dear friends, my dear students, this is a right occasion for us when we are celebrating the Technology Day to remember and practice night science. If your guide tells you something, no, do this way, that way, have the courage to disagree with your guide. Tell, this is how I want to do. Don't try to be a conformist. You must challenge authority. Like Nachiketa did. Nachiketa was asking so many questions to his father. His father couldn't answer. He said, you go to Indraprastha. He will answer. So Nachiketa went there and he had to wait for 3 days. And Indraprastha came and there was a long discussion between them about the meaning of life, about the meaning of existence. And that dialogue became part of Kathopanishad. So you should develop the ability to question. Great scientists are those who question, who do not find answers, they question. But of course you also require day science, because when you hypothesize, when you come up with some brilliant ideas in your mind, you also have to test them. So therefore you'll have to go back to the lab and practice the day science and prove the ideas that are coming in your mind. So now, if you think that what I have told you is some fiction, somebody like you, a psychologist, he wanted to test this. Do creative ideas come like that when I practice day science? when I let my mind free. So he set up he chose 4 molecular biology labs and he fixed CCTVs there. And he observed the scientists for nearly 3 to 4 years. And at the end of the study, he found that, you're all working in biology and in those areas. When I think of a molecular biology lab, what comes in your mind? A white gown, protective glasses, microscopes, looking at the bacteria, virus and all that studying. But this psychology scientist found that great ideas came when people were talking to each other informally over a cup of tea, or when people bumped into each other and exchanged some small talk. Ideas flew from one project to the other project, and then new creative ideas came. And if you think that is still a fiction, I'll give you an example. CCD, all of you are familiar. In digital imaging in cameras, we use what is known as charge coupled device. This charge coupled device was invented for a cup of tea while writing, during discussion some diagrams on a blackboard. George E. Smith and his colleague, they invented the charge coupled device in a free environment without worrying about any experiments and theories. They got the Nobel Prize. Why? Think about Sir C.V. Raman. When he was coming from Europe, when he looked at the blue sea, he was intrigued by the color of the blue sea, of the Mediterranean Sea. He went back and then worked in the lab, and now you know the Raman effect, that the light frequency is altered by the molecules. So we know the Raman effect, and it has come because he went out of his own way. And one clear thing that you will see in all these creative ideas is you need to be a good observer, and you need to be curious about things if you want to be a creative person. A Swiss engineer, he was walking in a forest in Alps, and he found that along with his dog, and he found that on his clothes and the dog's fur, small seeds were getting stuck. Many of us will say just remove them and then move forward. But he picked up them, he went back to his lab and observed under the microscope, and he found that these seeds have a hook-like structure which are not visible to the naked eye. And it gets stuck. Wherever there is a loop kind of thing in our fiber, it gets stuck. Then he got the idea. He worked for a few years and he invented a very useful application. All of you use that. Do you know what it is? It is Velcro. Haven't you used it? We all have used Velcro, and it has a hook kind of shape and loops, and then it gets attached. Because he was observant, he was curious, and he worked on it, and he could develop a product. So, my dear students, I would like to stop here. Otherwise, the organizers will take away the microphone from me. All that I would like to say is that you have immense potential within yourself. Don't underestimate your potential. And each one of you are different. Don't imitate and try to be somebody like somebody else. Be yourself. Recognize your inner potential. Try to think without any constraints and be creative. Come up with new technologies and participate in our journey of making our country Vikasit Bharat a fully developed country by 2047. And I wish you all the best. Namaste.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to call upon stage all the 4 dignitaries for the launch of Vigyan Bharati website, along with Shri Praveen Ramdas ji for the launch. I would like to call upon Professor A.C. Pandey, Professor M. Jagdish Kumar, Professor Devashish Mahanti, Professor Ashwini Agarwal, and Shri Praveen Ramdas ji. For the launch of the Vigyan Bharati website. Please put your hands together for the launch. Now, as we so we are opening the platform for interaction. So I would like to have one or two questions from the student side. So yes, someone can give the mic to Tathagato, please.
Hello everyone, I am Tathagat. I am an MTech student from DBEB. My question is for Professor Jagdish. Sir, you talked about sustainable development, and my question is slightly paradoxical in sense. I would like your insights on this. So, India is a developing country with still GDP per capita of around $2,500, and we need to build and we need to produce in order to develop, especially infrastructure. First, we consume a lot of steel, cement. We need for steel we need the carbonization of iron. For cement, we need mining and all. And it all adds to the carbon footprint of the country. You talked about agriculture. We are trying to shift to aquaponics, hydroponics, vertical farming, and genetically modified crops. But still, the most prominent form of agriculture is land, and you also mentioned the amount of water which is being used. So how do you think, especially from a policy maker perspective, how do you think we modulate ourselves for sustainable development with building in our capacity and somehow modulating our carbon footprint? And how do we need to shift to a more stronger policy in this sense? Thanks.
I think if you look at the developments that are taking place in the recent past in our country, we are able to bring in a lot of changes. But there are certain practices which are so deep rooted, it will take time and effort. For example, we consume a lot of water for our agricultural crops. Can we look at the possibility of precision agriculture? Because you know that nearly 90% of the farmers in our country, they are small land owners. So if you can develop precision agriculture, even if it is a 2 acres plot, You know what is the input, you can predict what is the output, and accordingly you can modulate the agricultural processes to enhance the yield. So many such things have to be done. Similarly, our cities have become, islands of heat because there is so much of glass, there is so much of cement and steel that is used. So can we think about alternate ways of constructing our houses? IIT Madras has come up with some methods of building houses, especially in rural areas, without really using the kind of steel and glass that we use. So that is the reason why we must focus on science and technology. So why do we have to use fertilizers so heavily even today? Can we look at the possibility of lesser usage of fertilizers but still have the same crop yield? These are all issues on which we have to work. And education, frightened by this big challenge, instead see how this problem can be solved through meaningful ways. And that is where young people like you will play a very key role.
Thank you for the answer.
We will take one more question. Ritansha.
Question answers are more interesting than speeches. Yeah.
Hello sir, my question is to both of you. We work in a lab where we focus mostly on multi-omics and other developing RNA sequencing and DNA sequencing of Genome India project and all of that. So we're trying to look at implementation of these techniques to directly influence healthcare. Say we have tests that people have started taking now, HbA1c and other tests. So to reach a point where people are regularly also getting, say, their genome sequenced, or trying to look at, mutations that make them vulnerable to developing certain diseases or not. So what kind of infrastructure and also the scientific, you know, research would go into making this a reality sooner?
Yeah, I see one of the reason of this being not being used practically is, first of all, the technology has remained expensive. Like, you will not be able to do that. So once your laboratory, if you are using some omics for cancer research or as a proof of principle, if you establish, yes, it is able to detect certain disease with some sensitivity, specificity, which will be accepted for clinicians, it will be adopted, it will be recommended and things like that. Once the more number of people use it and all, the cost will go down. So that is where it can be this one. There are already companies coming who are trying to use the tuberculosis genome sequencing to help clinicians, but they are only going to private hospitals in Mumbai, where the patients who come with TB who can afford, even if they 8 to 10,000 of this one, they can afford. But if we want to use this technology, even though they are the coming, if it comes as a part of national TB program, they can reduce the cost, which is 10,000 to 2,000 or 1,000. But to think of all that, it has to be adapted. But for that, we have to first, from our laboratory work, we have to demonstrate in a robust way that yes, it is indeed detecting or something. That is where the role of these laboratories, omic studies and comes. But once we establish it, it can, all that adoption will automatically follow. The cost will go down and all.
Yeah, I think we can take a couple of more questions if the organizers permit. Rituji, is it okay? Yeah, one or two questions. Yeah.
We will move forward with one more questions maybe. One or two.
Remember, I asked you learn to question. That's the first step if you want to be creative.
So hello, my name is Jatin. I'm a new faculty in this institute. So my question is in regards to paradoxes. So when you talked about that creativity is important and most of the ideas they came out of spaces where students can share a tea and all. But I don't see these kind of ideas being incorporated in the new infrastructures of our institutes. Why is there a paradox when we have this information that these kind of ideas will help science? Why we fail to incorporate?
Well, when I said over a cup of tea, it doesn't mean that you always have to have a cup of tea to become creative. I'll give you an example of, you know, if I want to be physically fit, I can always creep and say that I don't have a good gym. But if I am really committed to do that, I can do using my own body weight within an area of 6 by 3 feet and do exercise and become fit. So often I think we only look at the constraints that are there, and in the process we lose out on many opportunities. So my dear friend, you have just joined at IIT Delhi. When we joined here, we didn't have the kind of facilities that we have. So you are still fortunate. You can meet your students and then brainstorm and come up with a lot of creative ideas.
Sir, so I am a basic PhD student at IIT Delhi. So I did my master's from a Sankar University. So I am a PhD student at IIT Delhi, and I did my master's from Sankar University. And what I see, the kind of facilities we are getting in terms of funding facilities, we have a state-of-the-art facilities here. But these central universities and the other government colleges, they don't have the access to these facilities. So we are unable to get their potential search from these institutes. So is UGC doing something to get funding to these universities so that we can use these resources too?
Right. So he has seen both the worlds. He is from a university, now he is studying in IIT. See, out of 4.5 crore students that we have in higher education, nearly 92% of the students are in the state universities. We have about 1,000 state universities, private as well as government, and 55,000 colleges. In centrally funded institutions such as this, we have only about 6% of the students. So therefore, you're right that the research ecosystem in the university system has to be enhanced. And there are many funding schemes which are already implemented. For example, PM Usha is one scheme. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had a meeting with 80 universities whom we have funded 100 crores each to establish new research facilities. And now we have also introduced the 4-year undergraduate program, where in the 4th year, students can actually do some research and directly join in a PhD program. So a lot of things are being done as part of the implementation of NEP 2020.
Now, as we draw this event to a close, I would like to invite our HOD Ma'am Ritu Kulshresh to extend our heartfelt gratitude to everyone who have made this event a success. Please put your hands together for Ma'am.
So thank you everybody, thank you dignitaries, thank you my colleagues, my students, staff, everybody who has come here and made this program such a big success. So first I would say that how it all started. I remember a few months back there is Akashji. Akashji had come to my office to apprise me of the all the workings of Vigyan Bharati. And then I understood that they are doing lots of activities for popularization of science and so many other activities. And then we were planning few months that okay, once we will have this one program that we'll arrange, and finally that program came just right after the National Technology Day. So it is, I thought that the timing is like perfect because when the whole country is applauding not only the vision and the determination of our Prime Minister Modi ji as well as the defense forces, but at the same time we are so much applauding showing the technology advancement that has helped us in fighting this war against terror. So I thought that the timing is perfect. Also because the Department of Biochemical Engineering and Biotechnology, initially it was the first department in the country which was mainly focusing on bioconversion and bioethanol production, and was a leader at that point of time. But very, very recently, in past few years, we have made major progress in the field of environment as well as health, science and technology. In the past year itself, there were 6 technologies that were passed on to the industries. And these were helping us not, let's say, war against terror, but definitely help us against war, against diseases. So most of these technologies, they were mainly for precision therapeutics or diagnostics. So both helping the clinicians, ultimately our country, if we can have much more affordable diagnostic solution as well as some options for precision therapy. Not only this, in past 2 years, our students, the BTech students, I am so proud to share with all of you that our BTech students, they had these startups. So startups, for example, in the area of AI, and then startups, the senior batch of our these alumni, they also launched a startup on determination of protein variants, and they collected $500 million for the same as well. So with, I would take this opportunity to thank all my colleagues, my students who have made all these major contributions from our Department of Biochemical Engineering and Biotechnology possible. We've been part of various national mission programs such as Pavitra Ganga. Last year we were the Genome India movement, even our department, our faculty from our department, they were involved in the same. So with all these contributions, I hope that we keep making the mark in science, and the contributions from our department help India in some or the other way. And I would also like to thank you both our the speakers today. And so we had like range of emotions. So when Professor Devashish came, he was, exciting us with there is BioE3, there is bioeconomy, there is like a solution for COVID and CAR T cell therapy, all the recent things, and which is definitely something we are very proud of, and something very, very important that our the government is focusing and really pushing a lot of efforts in this area. And I think Sir, in a nutshell, gave a lot of the activities of the government in this particular area. And then came the talk by Professor Jagdish, in which calm down, spiritualism, and very, very important, be creative. I mean, just don't rush to ChatGPT when some question is asked, but think and come up with creative ideas, and which is very, very important. It's very important that we come up with some very novel questions rather than always going and reading the papers from the best and then coming with the ideas. And unfortunately, this is a fact that we all are rushing. It's not only the faculty, it's students here who are rushing. We all need to realize that we need some self-time to think and come up with the idea. So I think it's an amalgamation of both the talk by Professor Devashish as well as Jagdish sir, that we have to combine both the areas, and then probably our impact on technology as well as something for the country, it will be really, really good. So with these words, I would like to thank all the team members of Vigyan Bharati, especially Dr. Avinash Pandey ji, then Akash ji, then Rajiv ji. I've learned a lot of names today also. So I just hope Dr. Madhav ji, so everybody who have come here, and I hope that from IIT, not only from faculty, from students also, they are able to popularize science in some or the other way, and even contribute to your these books that you release by Vigyan Bharati. So thank you all, and now we'll present you with some token of appreciation.
question, keep questioning, and keep contributing not just to science but to society. Thank you all for this wonderful evening. We have a high tea. Please enjoy. Thank you.